I'd like to start my presentation asking you a question. Have you ever thought, what do kids go to school for? I leave this question, so if you are bored during my presentation, you have something to think about. Well, I'm going to present you a Smart Classroom project. This is coordinated by a group of researchers from different universities and led by UOC. The project is funded by Recercaxa Call. And please, raise your hand if this kind of classroom is familiar to you. Okay, almost all of you. Do you know how much time do children spend at a classroom like that? Well, this is quite a lot of time. These are the kind of classrooms that we have nowadays in most of the schools, where teachers and students spend a long time in their lives. And actually, this is the main reason we are doing this research. But at the moment, schools are making changes in methodologies, but the problem is that learning spaces don't answer to this pedagogical change. When schools try to make these changes, they do it based on different criteria. Architectural criteria, they ask architects on projects to renovate the spaces, or designers criteria, or furniture companies that try to sell them as many tables and chairs as possible, of course. Sometimes teachers travel to other countries to check what they are doing in schools, or teachers make changes based on their own intuition or their preference. Okay. So sometimes teachers like green and put green tables, green chairs, sometimes almost green, pistachio color. Okay. Anyway, it is a design with any reflection, any pedagogical reflection. And of course, it is a design from a teacher-centered point of view. So this is why we believe it is fundamental to redesign learning spaces based on scientific evidence. The research carried out to this moment shows us that the learning spaces play a key role to promote new methodologies. Let me explain about our project. So it's titled, Why Smart? For us, smart is when spaces respond to the needs of learning. It should be flexible, adaptable, connected. This is smart for us. Classroom is because changes need to first happen in a classroom. Most of the schools are doing changes first in spaces like library, corridors, or computer rooms. But the research shows us that students prefer change in classrooms. And project, because we are working with a co-design methodology involving teachers, students, families, and other members of community. We are not designers, we are not architects, but we are using research evidence from these fields of knowledge. A Smart Classroom project has 3 different stages. Stage 1 is a quantitative phase. In this phase, we wanted to know teachers' thought, needs, and knowledge about learning spaces from 3 dimensions. Pedagogical dimension is the most important for us, environmental dimension, and digital. We sent a questionnaire to a sample of almost 900 teachers from different levels, kinder, primary, and secondary in Catalonia. This is an example of what teachers say when they identify their teaching style and classroom design. You can see in the secondary level there is a more traditional perception of learning spaces. Second stage is a piloting in 5 schools. We used a co-design process, which consists in 3 sessions where participants had to do different activities. This process was crucial to show different questions about classroom, pedagogy, teachers' use, and integrational digital elements. The process we followed has 2 key elements. On the one hand, with this co-design methodology, teachers get a very deep level of reflection about learning spaces, and they share it with their colleagues. And on the other hand, the result of co-design process, it is identified with the work of all participants, with a deeply reflect, linking pedagogy and space, and not from someone external. In the last activity of this process, of the co-design process, participants used magnetic boards that we built. We have hundreds of different species at scale that allow to design the classroom they want. The pieces are magnetic and can be moved. After the co-design process, we analyzed data and proposed a prototype classroom or space. So the outcome of co-design is a very meaningful and reflective product according to the pedagogical project of each school. Then we start implementation. You can see in this slide one of the spaces before the implementation. And this is the result. This is a multi-purpose space outside classrooms. This is another co-design classroom. This is a space before. And you can see that it is very important to improve the level of well-being during the stay in the classroom in order to improve the learning experience for teachers and students. You can compare here between the space before and the space after. So stage 3 evaluation phase includes self-report, observations, focus group with students and teachers, environmental measurements in order to evaluate the level of improvement. For example, as you can see in the slide, the level of satisfaction in different features of new spaces is very high if we compare with classical classrooms. This is a Wi-Fi station device. Let us to know remotely about temperature, sound level, and air quality and humidity. These elements have impact on concentration during learning and in different cognitive process. And now I am going to tell you something about the results until now. The general main result is that we have achieved a transition from a traditional classroom to a new generation classroom, which we call a smart classroom. You can see here we have established 10 principles that all educative spaces should be followed. Just now we are developing and validating a rubric from these 10 principles, and it will allow schools to evaluate their learning spaces. At this moment, we are also developing a network with different institutions. We also 5 research transfer contracts. For the feedback that we are receiving, we know that our project is having real direct impact in educational context. And finally, we must return to the question of the beginning. Have you thought about it? In the next slide is the answer. Never doubt, kids go to the school to be happy. Please don't forget it, because for me, this is the most important of my presentation. Thank you very much.